What's up, y'all? Brandon with BC Talks here. So I mentioned in the last video that I'm going on a little mini vacation. I'm going back up home to New England for this weekend, and I didn't know if I was gonna have another video for y'all in between then and next week. Well, obviously that's not the case because you're watching this video. I just couldn't help myself. Y'all know the antique mall that I've been to a few times, made videos on the channel. They had a 30% off orange sticker sale, and it's ending right before I head out of town. So before I left, I wanted to hit it up and see if they had anything good for sale. And of course, like I said, I couldn't help myself. I had to pick up some books. Now, I didn't pick up a giant stack like I usually do. I was only there for like 45 minutes or so, but I did pick up a couple of really interesting keys and a few other books that I wanted to talk about. So we're going to go over them in today's video. Before we get started, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. And if you're into buying and collecting comics, check me out on Whatnot. Give me a follow on there. I was made a verified seller recently, and I'm going to be selling a lot of the books you've seen in these past hauls. So if you've been interested in any of the books that I've shown, make sure you give me a follow so you can stay tuned because you might be able to pick one of those up. And if you use my link down in the description and you're a first time sign up, you'll save $10 off your first purchase. And it doesn't have to be with me, it can be with anybody on Whatnot. You can find all sorts of collectibles on Whatnot, not just comic books. Whatever you're into collecting, you can find on there. And if you use that link down in the description, you'll save some money on that purchase. All right, so this first cover is one of my favorite DC Comics covers of all time, and it's just a really dope cover. And when I saw it, I definitely had to pick it up. This is Green Lantern number 49. And if you look it up on Key Collector, the key is literally iconic cover art. That's it. It's a cover by Daryl Banks. I call it the Tom Brady cover because if y'all know, if you've seen the picture with Tom Brady with all his rings, a lot of people they call it the Bill Russell cover. Obviously, that picture, famous picture with Bill Russell with his rings as well. But whatever you want to call it, it's just a really dope cover with Hal Jordan looking like a fiend on there with all the rings. So this basically was, if you can see on the top there, it says Emerald Twilight 2. This was part of the Emerald Twilight arc in the, this is the third volume of the Green Lantern run from the Green Lantern series from the 90s. Issues number 48, 49, and 50 were the Emerald Twilight storyline. And basically, in the Emerald Twilight storyline, it also introduces the newest Green Lantern at the time, Kyle Rayner, who's a very well known Green Lantern nowadays. He's a pretty cool character as well that he evolved into eventually. But basically the to sum up the Emerald Twilight storyline, Cyborg Superman and a villain named Mogul basically bomb Coast City, which is Hal Jordan's hometown city that he protects, and Hal Jordan is distraught, and in his pain and anger, he uses his Green Lantern power ring to recreate the city, and he even recreates like his dead dad has a conversation with him. He recreates his girlfriend, has a conversation with her. So it's really kind of deep and painful stuff. And the Guardians of the Universe, who they're the big-headed guys that are on Oa, who are the protectors of the universe. They created the Green Lantern Corps to protect the universe. They come down and they say, "Hey, man, that's not cool. You're not supposed to use your power ring for selfish purposes." And Hal Jordan basically snaps because they're so they don't care. They're so apathetic. They don't care about all the people that died because millions of people died in the bombing in the city. So he kind of snaps and he basically turns heel and he starts killing and he starts fighting and killing other Green Lanterns. And so that kind of leads to this issue where he kills a bunch of Green Lanterns and takes their power rings because he wants to collect as much power as possible so he can permanently recreate Coast City, the city that got destroyed, because he was temporarily recreating it at the time. So he basically wants to get as many Green Lantern rings as possible so he can be powerful enough to recreate the city. So the Guardians are like, "Hey, this is not cool. This man is going ham. He's killing everybody." So they eventually release Sinestro, who y'all know is one of Hal Jordan's biggest nemesis, and basically the Guardians' nemesis in general. So for them to release Sinestro, they're desperate. And but Sinestro fails. He cannot stop Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan's become like this, supremely powerful being with all these rings. And so Sinestro dies. There's another guy that he almost dies as well, and then he goes to Earth and recruits Kyle Rayner. I forget his name, but that's how Kyle Rayner gets roped into this. But yeah, so he defeats Sinestro, he kills Sinestro, and then he goes to Oa, to the source of the rings, of the power for the rings, the central battery on Oa, and he goes in there and he comes out with a new suit and becomes the villain Parallax. And the heel turn for Hal Jordan was pretty interesting because Hal Jordan is kind of like that goody two shoes, kind of how people talk about Superman now. That's basically what Hal Jordan was. He was like kind of like the goody two shoes, happy go lucky superhero. So for him to turn into a villain was pretty interesting. Pretty interesting move for his character. And I kind of like Hal Jordan Parallax, even though he's a villain. It kind of gave some depth and rounded out his character a little bit. And moving forward after he was not paralyzed. He was paralyzed for a while as well, and it kind of gave him some depth for when he became not parallax anymore, when he became himself. So yeah, it was a pretty big heel turn, and this is kind of like sums up the Emerald Twilight storyline, in my opinion. Him just geeking out with all these rings. So I really love that cover, and I definitely had to pick that up when I saw it was on sale. This next one is Swamp Thing Annual #2. Now, this is the key is that it is an unofficial cameo team appearance of the Justice League Dark. It's the first unofficial cameo. If you look on Key Collect, there's a few unofficial cameos. Basically, in this story, what happens is that Deadman, the Phantom Stranger, the Spectre, and the demon Etrigan join up with Swamp Thing as he travels through hell to obtain the soul of one of his dead friends. Or well, yeah, she I guess she's not technically dead, but her soul gets damned to hell. So they team up. You can see them on the cover. There's a really cool cover as well. They team up with their friend Swamp Thing, who's helped them out in the past. I scratch my back, you scratch yours, kind of thing. So they team up unofficially. They're never really called the Justice League Dark. Actually, the Justice League Dark is kind of like a more fan colloquial term. It was never really actually an official team until there was a Justice League Dark series in like 2011. So, but before that, this came out in the 80s. Before the Justice League Dark comic in 2011, they weren't actually called Justice League Dark. It was just, people would call them that whenever, these darker magic based characters would kind of come together. And there's been all sorts of iterations of them. Usually it's, Swamp Thing, Dead Man, Shade the Changing Man, Zatanna, Hellblazer, Constantine, Doctor Fate, Madame Xanadu. Batman's been with them sometimes. Hellblazer, Etrigan. So, but it usually does center around Swamp Thing. And Constantine is a big popular character as well. It's usually Swamp Thing or Constantine that it centers around most of the times. And so this is the first time that that happens in comic books. So this technically you can say is the first appearance of Justice League Dark, even though it's not because they're not called that. Um, but there was, like I said, there was the Justice League Dark comic book in 2011. That was the first official team of Justice League Dark, which was Shade the Changing Man, Madame Xanadu, Hellblazer, Deadman, and Zatanna. So Swamp Thing wasn't even on the first actual team of Justice League Dark, even though he was the first one to kind of start it, if you will. But Justice League Dark, they're interesting characters, and there was for a very long time. Well, first, J.J. Abrams was connected way back in the day to a Justice League Dark project, and then more recently, Guillermo del Toro, who's a really great director. I love his work. He has been connected to, or rumored to be connected to, a Justice League Dark project as well. I'd really love to see Guillermo del Toro's take on these darker characters. If you've watched any of his movies, he has a really unique style. He's kind of an auteur, and he would bring a really unique style to DC. I'd love James Gunn. He talked about how there's going to be Elseworlds movies, like for instance the Joker and Joker Folie à Deux, which is coming up, the musical, are Elseworlds, so they're not connected to the main DC thing that James Gunn is doing. I would love for an Elseworlds Justice League Dark movie with Guillermo del Toro. Can you imagine how dope that would be? But yeah, there have been Justice League Dark movies though. They were animated though. But well, there was one animated one, and then there's a couple animated Constantine ones that are basically Justice League Dark, where he's with Etrigan and other characters, Zatanna, characters like that. Basically, they're Justice League Dark movies in Constantine movies, but they're really dope. I like them a lot. I would suggest checking them out, especially if you like the darker magic-based characters in DC. I really like them. But I'm kind of biased. I really like all of the DC animated movies, even the ones that people say are bad. Even though the writing in some of them can be, kind of corny and flat and bad, and the jokes can go flat. I think that they're just really fun movies. I think that they're, I view them as, a fun 90-minute story, kind of romp with the characters. And I think that a lot of them, even though some of them can be kind of corny at times, I think most of the DC animated movies are pretty good. Some of them, some of the more recent ones after the New 52, after Flashpoint, have not been great. But I think that they kind of capture the essence of the characters well. Even when they're not good movies, the characters I think are good. And I really just enjoy. I'm a DC guy. I grew up watching the Justice League animated, Batman, Superman animated, Static Shock, Teen Titans. I grew up watching those. I wasn't really into the Spider-Man animated series and all that. In the in the early 2000s, late 90s, I was more DC, so that's kind of how I grew up. So I kind of have an affinity to the characters of DC, so I'm kind of biased. But yeah, I would definitely suggest checking out the Constantine movies and the Justice League Dark animated movie, and hopefully we get that Guillermo del Toro one in an Elseworlds. James Gunn, please give it to us. This next one is New Avengers number 9. This is the first appearance or the first full appearance of the Black Order. A couple of the characters I think Corvus Glaive appear before in the series, but this is the first full team appearance of the Black Order and also the first appearance of Supergiant. Now, if you don't know the Black Order, they were the team that was basically Thanos' henchmen in the Infinity War and Endgame movies. The Black Order is Corvus Glaive, Black Dwarf, Proxima Midnight, and of course Squidward himself, Ebony Maw. um, yeah, it's just a really cool key for cheap, um, relating to Infinity War and Endgame. This next one is Batman number 479. I like collecting the Batman keys. Obviously, everyone's a Batman fan, and this one was really cheap at 30% off. This is the first appearance of Pagan, who's a vigilante who fights people who commit crimes against women. So basically, she's the Punisher, but for people that hurt women. And y'all can tell why I got this cover. I got. I saw it and I was like, I got to get that cover. But or that book. But yeah, so that's an interesting Batman key there. And then this last book, like I said, I didn't have a bunch. This last one is um oh, I'm missing one. Oh no, yeah, I was about to say I had two. Yeah, so it's not the last one. This next one is Daredevil number 253. It's the first appearance of the Wild Boys. I got this one for the cover as well because it's just an awesome Kingpin cover with Daredevil's mask there, and then it also at the top says "Merry Christmas, Daredevil." I just really like this cover. Kind of shows you how menacing Kingpin is. And speaking of Kingpin and Daredevil, y'all know, or you may not know, the Daredevil Netflix series is being rebooted now that Disney has the rights for that. They are doing a new series called Daredevil Born Again, which is a pretty fitting name considering it's kind of like a soft reboot. Um, Kingpin and Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin, and Charlie Cox as Daredevil will be reprising their roles, but we don't know. And also, the guy who plays Punisher as well. His name is escaping me. I'm sorry, but y'all know who he is. He was in The Walking Dead. He's a really great actor. They are reprising their roles, but we don't know about everybody else. It's rumored that Foggy and Karen, the actors, are not going to be reprising their roles, but we'll see what happens. And also, it's supposed to come out in spring 2024, but because the studios are being butt heads and not negotiating with actors in good faith, they had to push it back. It was supposed to come up here in a few months, but sadly, it's probably not going to come out till late 2024 or maybe even 2025, depending on how long the strike goes. Because the studios are not negotiating in good faith. You know, as always. This last one, sorry, I really like this cover as well. A lot of these were cover buys. This one, and it's a newsstand as well. This is Avengers number 225. Yes, and this is also a key. All these were keys. This is cover art by Ed Hannigan featuring Black Knight. That's the key, so not a big key, but you can see Black Knight there. I just really love the cover. A lot of people don't like the floating heads covers. I like them when they're done in interesting ways. Like if they're all just sitting there, I don't like them. But this one's interesting. It's an interesting floating heads cover, and Black Knight is going to be played by Kit Harington, the actor who played Jon Snow in the hit series Game of Thrones. Um, his Kit Harington's going to be playing Black Knight. If you watched Eternals, you saw him in there. Um, as Dane Whitman. And at the end of Eternals, he saw that he got the sword, which was calling, and I think it was Blade calling out to him. And he is going to be in the Blade movie as well, if that ever gets made. It's been pushed back so many times. It's gone through 3 different rewrites, and I don't know. Mahershala Ali is one of my favorite actors. Um, but I think he might get tired of all of the setbacks that's been going through and just say, screw it, I'm not doing this anymore. Which I really hope doesn't happen because I really think he'd be a great successor to Wesley Snipes as Blade because he's a really great actor. But that's all of the books that I got at this little quick haul. All right, so let me know what your favorite book that I picked up was in this little quick haul. A lot of cover buys for me. They were all keys though. I think my favorite was probably the Tom Brady cover for Green Lantern. It's just a really interesting story. I really like Green Lantern's heel turn as Parallax. And I'm a big Justice League fan as well, especially Justice League Dark. So the Swamp Thing book was pretty dope as well. I really liked all of them actually, obviously, or else I wouldn't have bought them. But let me know what your favorite one was down in the comments below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel for more comic book and pop culture talk. And if you're into buying comic books, check me out on Whatnot. Use my link down in the description to save $10 off your first purchase if it's your first time signing up. And I will see y'all another day.